hope you will name as the best sports talk show host and Tri-City Sports Now as the best sports talk show in the Best of Johnson City poll in the Johnson City Press newspaper. That would mean a lot to validate your own tastes. But there's some more to go on. And one of the reasons was we got hard-hitting opinions. And I'm going to give you some here in just a minute. All right. The thing, though, is that I want to begin talking about here is what we were talking about yesterday with Jerry Bonkowski of NBCSports.com. And if you read NBCSports.com or really any motorsports site, you will find out that Jimmie Johnson yesterday changed his crew chief, and Jerry talked about the possibility of this on our show. You can listen to it on archives, and I remember slugging it on a website. It was actually NASCAR Past and Present on Facebook, and saying, look, is Jimmie Johnson, now post-1983 Richard Petty? I think we got to ask that question. Because he's running out of the playoff mix now. He's 17th. Seems so inept. The old crew chief couldn't even get the jack out of the way in the pits in Pocono. So he finished 15th. And, since July 4th weekend when he finished 3rd at Daytona, and you were like, okay, here it comes. 30th in Kentucky, 30th in New Hampshire, 15th in Pocono. So, let's go back to what worked. Cliff Daniels, 31 years old, new crew chief for Jimmie Johnson. He was Johnson's race engineer in 2016 when Johnson won the Cup. We talked about it here, I can recall. That was his 7th title. And I'm saying, is he sexy enough? Is this why NASCAR is going in a tank? By the way, I'm going to do Media Watch in just a few minutes. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Anyway, he used to be Tony Stewart's race engineer. Stuart Haas moved to the Hendrick Motorsports Competition Systems after the 2018 season. And he rejoined the 48 team, that's Jimmie Johnson, as a race engineer over at Sonoma. So basically firing the manager and giving a hot prospect an attempt to try to right the sinking ship. Wouldn't surprise me if Johnson made the playoffs. But yeah, now I'm really wondering, is he Richard Petty post-1983? And he's lost his sponsor. Are they in a Lowe's? Not what in the world? I mean, that's like Richard Petty losing STP. At least he didn't do that. And what's missing here? So close in some tracks, but just so far. Is it the car? Well, the Camaros have been competing more. They've proven they can win on the speedways. What was the deal then at Pocono? Could the road courses where the Camaros have also done well? But Johnson, nobody accused him of being Boris Said. So anyway, that's the case here. Cliff Daniels, new crew chief with Jimmie Johnson. You heard the speculation talking about it yesterday on Tri-City Sports Now with me, Marky, Billson, but especially Jerry Bonkowski. 12 points out as Jimmie Johnson to the final playoff spot. And you get the idea now, even if he makes it, I mean, it's just sort of like as a courtesy. It's sort of like, tipping your hat to the crowd. Unless, of course, Daniels really makes an impact and Jimmie Johnson wins a race or two. Eric Jones has been right there real close. And although he hasn't won a race this year, he is 13th in the overall point standings. And frankly, there's a guy that you start to think, hey, maybe now, you know me and what I think of big playoff fields. Diminishes the regular season. My goodness, why are we entertaining the thought of a 85 victory Minnesota Twins team in 2017 legitimately playing for a world title? I mean, even if they beat the Yankees in this playoff game, why would they beat the Yankees in this playoff game? What would that mean for the regular season? What happened to finishing in first place? But you get the idea that, you know, with Jones there, he's coming so close, he's being so competitive, that maybe he could be a factor in the playoffs. Problem is, what if he's always staying? What if he makes it a 13th? And what if he's, right there? And I know you got to pretty much in the playoffs start win the race to get the next round. But what if he's right there, and makes those cuts by finishing second, finishing third, and he wins a title by winning the last race after not really winning before? What did that mean about the first 35 races? What did that mean about the 2019 NASCAR season? Oh, yeah. It means it was just like the 2018 NASCAR season. See why I don't like those big playoff fields? All right. Let's finish out this segment. Still got a ways to go here. But a little more, hey, how NASCAR has fallen, and also the pettiness of the NBA. Banning a reporter for doing his job, I'll tell you more about it, because this, my friends, is Media Watch. All right. Two stories today to tell you about that I want to get to. First one, I mentioned it briefly yesterday when I was talking to Jerry Bonkowski, but if you want to know how far NASCAR has fallen, Johnson City Press, maybe it's not the Bristol Herald Courier, but let's face it, it's Tri-Cities paper. Jeff Birchfield is a nationally known motorsports writer who covers NASCAR for them, and although I don't expect them to send him out to Pocono to cover the race and such, he does bring motorsports writing credibility to the newspaper. If it's covering the local scene or whatnot, or even a column about NASCAR, you'd be surprised how many people from, especially insiders, respect what Jeff Birchfield has to say. So, but I wanted to mention that if you opened up the sports page, I know the Monday sports page is a little bit thin because, the way newspaper staffs are right now, you might have one guy laying out the paper, one other reporter maybe covering something on Sunday. But I'm familiar with this. I used to, I remember the non-football Sundays at a newspaper, and generally speaking, that's when you gave the guys the days off. And you would, let's say, write a feature during the week, and you'd run it on Monday morning. And a lot of it, big agate, that means standings boards, stats, that sort of thing, box scores. You'd run that, you'd run a lot of wire stuff, Basically, the guy working a sports desk that day is, laying out the paper. Okay, and using what he's got left over or what was written in advance. There may be, you get an Appalachian League game or something like that played on a Sunday, you might just run the staff reports and not send a guy out. I don't agree with it, but it's the way that modern newspapers are. Still, though, I was really stunned that in what I would consider, a Tri-Cities paper, open up the sports page, the race from Pocono hit page 3. Plenty of time for deadline, page 3 and not the front page. Even if it was below the fold. Isn't this a NASCAR town? BMS is only, 20 miles from Johnson City? Probably not even that if you go to the border where the crow flies. You get out of Piney Flats, and then you see the Welcome to Johnson City sign, right there. When does that actually begin? Does it begin around the development where the Food City and the Waffle House and all that is around? I'm giving free ads, in Piney Flats, around there, because I seem to remember the sign being there, but I know Sullivan County extends until about a mile or two down that road. the Bristol Johnson City Highway. What is that? That's 11E. Thank you, 11E. But 11E? What do you think? No, part of it's 19, but then that breaks off to Elizabeth, then 19E. So but still, that's really. I mean, to me, I find it stunning. It's not 11E, is it? Can't be 11E. 11E goes down the road. Becomes Commonwealth Boulevard. I can't right now think of part of it is 11E. I can't now think of the designation of it. Maybe the part from the Elizabeth and turn off to Johnson City. I got to look it up on a map, but I'm forgetting the. Anyway, that part. Just page 3. My How NASCAR Has Fallen. That was enough. All right, now the next thing I want to talk about is I generally don't like talking about the NBA, which makes me different from most sports talk shows. But I don't think that there's a lot of interest around here in the NBA. We don't have a team. Basically, basketball interest ends after college. And frankly, I think that culturally, and you can make out what that is, but certainly from a political standpoint, I mean, the NBA champions, how progressive they are, and let's face facts, that is not the culture around here. Okay, so I've often wondered, can you be a political conservative and an NBA fan when you've got every coach in the league, seemingly, be it Kerr or Popovich or whatever, just making whatever political statement of the day that is basically anti-conservative. Well, the thing is, James Dolan, he's the owner of the New York Knicks, and here's something you might not have known. He plays in a band. He's a guitar player. Now, it's not yet Keith Richards, but there is the Knicks finished in last place last year. Knicks haven't won the NBA title since 1973, although Dolan hasn't owned them for all that time. But, when you've got that sort of incompetence, people want to know why. And they want to know why a successful businessman, maybe with seemingly all the advantages of running the city's team in the city's game, why isn't this winning more? Now you can imagine that Dolan, maybe not that, doesn't want to talk to the reporters, that sort of thing. We understand that. But Polly Mosens, Polly Mosens, she's a reporter for Business Week. And she wanted to go see Dolan's band. It's JD and the Straight Shot. It's not the greatest name I've ever heard, but it works. Okay, JD and the Straight Shot. And that was from her editor. She was writing about Dolan's time about owner of the Knicks, and Dolan didn't want to talk to her, so you've got to go out and get the feel, the vibe. Who is this man? Let's go see his band play. Did not ask for a media credential. Paid the $38 to go see him. It was at the Paramount in Long Island. Don't ask me what town that is in Long Island. Long Island has many towns, but, there's a club called the Paramount, evidently. Dolan doesn't own that venue. Concert was open to the public. Like I said, $38 tickets. You and I could go to Long Island and say, hey, let's see the owner of the Knicks play the guitar. Yay! That sort of thing. And so Mosens only expect to see him playing music on the stage. But in a downtime, she comes out, says, hey, here's an opportunity. Reporters, look, I know we do this. Hi, I write for Business Week. I'd like to talk to you. We're doing a story on you, You've got the face-to-face right there. So maybe, even if he's a little uncomfortable, at least, a reporter, hey, you can't worry about that, right? If he becomes squeamish, doesn't want to talk, that becomes, person. Dolan is uncomfortable with the press. Now straight up. The message has not been lost somehow. Dolan wasn't exactly happy about that. Remember, he once kicked out Charles Oakley from Madison Square Garden. So what do you think that he did to the reporter, Polly Mosens, from Business Week? Yep.
Dolan said he hadn't authorized an interview and that I wasn't allowed to be there, despite it being a public show in a public venue, says Mosens. And then he repeatedly insisted that the music was not about him and therefore should not be mentioned in the article. Well, now, wait a minute here. Come on. He's not the editor. And by the way, NBA owner plays in a band. Are they any good? What kind of music do they play? I think it's interesting. And then Dolan really goes nuts. I mean, he flips Polly Mosen's notebook closed. He storms off. He gets security guards. All she's done is introduce herself. Now, one of the security guards say, look, we'll reimburse your ticket. Thankfully, Business Week is a prestigious enough publication that they'll probably write off the expense and all this, and she declines. Also, the security guard was sort of like, I really don't like to do this. I know this isn't necessarily, the policy of the venue. But you see, Dolan is our headliner, and so it's like, when Axl Rose, before they made up, dismissed Slash from a Guns N' Roses show. Before they made up. Before they realized there was money to be made if they made it. That's... Mosen then reached out to MSG, Madison Square Garden, for comment. Here's what she got. The reporter was there to write a story about the Knicks. The Knicks weren't playing. Band was. Was she really writing about the Knicks? No, she was writing about the owner, and he was playing. You want to look. You want to say, you know what? No, I don't want to talk to you. That's one thing. All right. You want to say, get the hell out of here? And even though you paid for your ticket, I am going... what in... The reporter was there to write a story about the Knicks. The Knicks were not playing that evening. How does that say, okay, but she can't enjoy music that evening? This guy is too power mad. He's overstepping his boundaries. This is unethical. And it's just another reason to hate the NBA as far as I'm concerned. It's one of the reasons why I say, look, I do not enjoy watching it. I do not enjoy covering it. I do not enjoy the culture. This is part of the culture there. No. But yet we have it stuffed down our throat. Imagine Colin Cowherd talking about baseball. I saw this on Twitter today. Rebecca Grant. You know who she is? I hope you do. You may remember a few years ago, Rebecca Grant, who was about as good looking as a woman can look, caused some reaction that basically, well, how can I say this? She looked very good at a Clippers game and caused quite the distraction. And that was the talk for a while. Now, I can remember she used to cover the NFL. She used to have a syndicated show, the NFL, where she was a co-host covering the NFL. In fact, if you're a Peyton Manning fan, the, 99 playoff game between the Dolphins and the Colts? I think it was the 99 or 98. 98 maybe it was? Let's see here. I'm trying to think. It was 2000. Trying to recall this because I thought Marino's last year was 99. But anyway, it was a playoff game between the Colts and the Dolphins. And quite literally, Rebecca Grant was standing there, and in overtime, Mike Vanderjagt of the Colts missed a kick in overtime, would have won the playoff game, and the Dolphins won it instead. And Grant said, I could feel that guy's eyes on me, and I knew he was checking me out, and I knew he was going to miss because he was not thinking about his kicking. He was thinking about... And you know what? If you saw Rebecca Grant, you would not blame Mike Vanderjagt one bit. Okay? But even she on Twitter, as NBA-centric as she is, has said, hey, to my followers, quit talking to me about the NBA. Got college football starting off, baseball, pennant races, NFL. I could care less about the NBA. And she's probably best known contemporarily for talking basketball. Go figure.
So, Tri-City Sports Now.
It's summer.